Hello and welcome in to the Week 9 edition of the live stream of the Playbook Pundits show here on SiouxCityJournal.com. My name is Zach James, I'm the sports editor, and he is Shane Lantz, the assistant sports editor. And tonight really begins the sprint to mid-November. We've talked about off-camera, but the postseason starts now. And it did kind of last night, and it has all week with volleyball and football on the Nebraska and South Dakota side too. But it really starts on the Iowa side tonight with Class 2A, Class 1A, Class A, and 8-player getting first-round playoff games in tonight. We've got a lot of teams playing tonight. We won't go through every game coming up on this live stream because we both still have copy to write for tonight's paper yet, but...
Making the magic happen.
But we will focus on some games and some other things that have been going on. But let's start off with the big story of the week, and that is West football. It was announced on Monday that the Wolverines had to forfeit their 2 wins due to the Wolverines playing an ineligible player during their 2 wins against South Sioux and Des Moines Hoover. And I was kind of shocked when I learned of the news. I don't know what your first reaction was.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
But I was shocked and of course disappointed.
Yeah, I mean it was actually on my day off, so I was just watching the television and saw the RPI standings come up, and then looking down at the standing that says West 0-8. So immediately we messaged back and forth and found out the story, and yeah, it's just an unfortunate situation. I mean, West finally had those 2 wins to break that long losing streak, and now they're back to 0-8. I mean, facing the prospect of another winless season. It's definitely unfortunate. I mean, this is I don't know. I think it'll be tough going into tonight against East. They got probably some players that are hurting a little bit and disappointed. So I think Coach Holmes definitely has a big task tonight.
Yeah, he's got his work cut out for him, but I do agree with what West said in its statement with saying it was an honest mistake. I do believe that it was an honest mistake, not having to count the days. I mean, is that excusable? Not really, but I do understand it is a mistake, and mistakes do happen. And I just want to say this in case if I don't write my column for Sunday's paper, and this is more towards the kids than anything else. Don't let that memory, the state can't take away the memory of what happened 7 weeks ago in South Sioux. You guys earned that win. You guys played hard against the Cardinals. And even though the record book will show that the Cardinals did win that game because of a technicality now, you guys can kind of meet again in a reunion 5-10 years down the road, or even a team reunion if one happens, and say, hey, remember the night we beat South Sioux and how fun of a night that was? Because that was a fun post game. It was fun to see the student section cheer loud. It was fun to see the parents hug each other, hug the kids, see the coaches hug each other, all the love among the West community. So they can't take away that from you. Just know that going into tonight's game against East, and as you ponder what happened throughout the offseason. But hang on to that memory, because regardless of what happens tonight, and I do think East wins tonight, you still have that memory of winning against South Sioux and Des Moines Hoover.
Yeah, and absolutely. It's one thing. It happens all the time. Well, not all the time, but it's happened in college basketball where a team has a dramatic win. I think it may have been Kansas a few years ago that had a big title game just get wiped away because of some technicality or some violation. And it's weird that you watch that happen and then the record book tells you that it didn't happen.
You see Mario Chalmers hit that 3 on the wing.
Exactly, yeah. That was the one I was thinking of. But it's strange when the record book tells you something different from what you saw with your own eyes. But it's very unfortunate. It's disappointing, but I don't know. Maybe it'll be good for them to kind of put this kind of tough, bumpy season after last week, kind of get done with the year, kind of digest it a little bit, and learn the lessons from this year going into next year, and maybe next year they'll have a win that actually sticks in the record book.
Yep. Other games in the Metro going on tonight. Well, let's talk about last night's game first. Vermilion beat Dakota Valley. I believe it was 34-7. You can see that coming up in tomorrow's paper. Barry Poe covered that game last night at the Dakota Dome. Disappointing ending to a Dakota Valley season. I think they went 1-7. Vermilion gets a home playoff game next week, but the Panthers season is now over. a lot of young guys, but they got some experience this year.
Yeah, rebuilding year. I mean, talking to the coach when I covered their game back in, was it week 3, week 4?
I believe so, yeah.
So just seems like ages ago.
It does. It does.
But yeah, that was kind of that's kind of what he said, was just this is a rebuilding year, lots of young guys, like we've mentioned, 21 out of 22 new guys on offense and defense. So I think this was a constructive year. They saw the thing that they're weak at. Maybe they saw some strengths, in that win that they got. So this is another situation. Like you mentioned, disappointing record in the record book, but I think they go into next year with plenty to play for.
And I'm sure most of those kids are excited to go into the wrestling and basketball seasons. Panthers wrestling will be all right. Panthers boys basketball is going to be really good. I think they'll be the best team in the Metro Bowl, but we can talk about that in the next month and a half. Helena is at home against Boynton Hole Rock Valley. They're going to honor their 1961 and 1971 state championship teams tonight. I believe it's during halftime, but there won't be much celebration for the Crusaders on the field tonight, welcoming in the number 2 ranked team in the AP and number 1 ranked team in 4A RPI, 3A RPI, excuse me. A really tough challenge for the Crusaders tonight.
Yeah, I see Boynton Hole taking this one pretty easily. But yeah, like you mentioned, it's going to be a tough one for them. But they do have something to look forward to. With that ceremony at halftime or whenever they're honoring that team. So the players of this, or in this tough season that they've had, can kind of look at that, and the guys that are coming back, they can see what success looks like. They can read those stories. If I guess the journal archives probably go back pretty far.
Yep, they do.
So yeah, they could probably find that on newspapers.com if they want to. But yeah, they got a lot to look forward to. It should be a fun night. And at this point in the year, with teams that are just kind of ending their regular seasons, you just go to watch football. It's one more night under the lights. You get one last little Friday Night Lights thing, and just enjoy it while it's here, because I know we'll all miss football when it's gone.
Absolutely. North is at Lincoln tonight. I think that's a good chance for North to get their 6th win of the season tonight.
Yeah, they clinched that winning season last week with a win over West. Right now, it looks like they're probably not going to make the playoffs.
23rd in the RPI.
Yeah, they need to be top 16, 23rd right now. They're still not completely out of it, but so much would need to happen.
A lot would need to happen today.
They would need to win, and basically every other team ahead of them would have to lose, and I just don't see that happening.
Well, considering some of those teams are head-to-head tonight.
Yeah, very true. So that's definitely tough to say the least. But they clinched a winning season, which was really big.
And they should hang their hats on that.
Absolutely. After the game, I interviewed several of the players, like Carson Strobing. I talked to Coach Mitch Moore. They were pretty emotional about it. This was a big thing. They hadn't had a winning season since, I believe it was 2010. A lot has been accomplished this year, from a team that was 1-8, I think 2 years ago, to 2-7 or 3-6, wherever they were last year, to now being a winning team. That was huge, and I do think that they can. It's a good possibility they can just add on to that tonight.
Too. I think South Sioux gets a win tonight too. Blair, they come home. They're at home facing Blair. Blair, I think, is 1-7 on the year.
Blair Bears.
The Blair Bears. I think there's a good chance for the Cardinals to end their season on a high note and get 2 wins this week, since they got the one against West.
Yeah, absolutely. We've started with all of the teams that have had kind of tough years, but yeah, I think South Sioux, they have a lot to play for right now. Good opportunity to go out on the high note. I very well could see them coming out with another win.
Let's take a look at some of the playoff games going on tonight now on the Iowa side of things. The first one is Garner Hayfield Ventura taking on West Lyon. You know a little bit about GHV during your time from Mason City. What do you know about GHV?
Yeah, they're just down the road from Mason City, pretty close to Clear Lake, and I've covered them several times. But going into this, I know they have Owen is a new player. I believe his name is Owen Pugel, is how you pronounce it. Had 894 passing yards on the season so far. Team has kind of struggled. They're 2-6 right now. Still a lot of young players. And with West Lyon right now, I think they won last week. Was it 50-0 over Cherokee?
I think so.
And they also have over 2,000 yards rushing on the season so far. Jackson Meyer has 590 yards, 9 TDs. So I see this being a pretty decisive win for West Lyon. But yeah, it is kind of nice to see my old job kind of come into my new one a little bit.
And it comes into your job a little bit more tonight, because one of our teams in the area, Unity Christian, does face Clear Lake tonight in Clear Lake. the Lions are very predicated on being physical because of their head coach, Jared DeVries.
Former NFL star.
Former NFL star and former Hawkeye standout. I think that's the key for the Knights tonight to kind of establish that physicality on both the offensive and defensive line.
Yeah, physicality is going to be key. That's something that Coach DeVries preaches. I mean, being a former defensive lineman, he really he encourages those guys on the line to just hit hard, hit often. And Carson Tavy, the quarterback for Clear Lake, he is a tough player. I've covered him when I was in Mason City. I covered him for a year in football. I covered him for 2 years in basketball. Just a tough, physical kid.
Yeah.
And he's a quarterback that's not afraid to take a hit. He can dish out a hit too, because he'll run and bowl some guys over. So very tough player, good with the arm, good with the legs. I think they're going to be in for a challenging night for sure.
And then I think we got 2 games involving both Siouxland area teams. The first one being West Monona and West Sioux. I think the Falcons come away with a big win tonight, but good for the Spartans to get in the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think right now we have West Sioux, Dylan Wiggins. I believe, if I have it right, he's at 1,956 passing yards. Their top rusher is Carter Bullman. He has 787 yards and 9 touchdowns on the ground. But West Monona, they come into it pretty hot. I mean, they're fresh off of a big win last week. They beat East Sac 50-13. So yeah, I think right now West Sioux though has 5 straight wins.
Yes,
so
they do.
They definitely have the momentum advantage coming into this. I see them coming out with a win. But yeah, if West Monona can just kind of make it respectable, make it close, make it interesting, is really what I want from this playoff football game.
Kingsley Pearson travels up to Harris Lake Park to face the Wolves tonight. I think the Wolves come away with the win, and Tice Gunderson has had a really nice year at quarterback for the Wolves.
Yeah, they've won each of the past 3 meetings between Harris Lake Park and Kingsley Pearson.
And they faced each other already in the regular season too.
They have, yeah. Harris Lake Park, they beat Kingsley 28-8 in that first matchup. So yeah, they're a tough team. I think they held the Panthers to -15 rushing yards last time. So that's a tough run defense right there. I mean, -15 yards is pretty wild
That's pretty wild.
Even
and sacks aren't included in high school stats. That makes that stat even more insane.
Yeah, so they stuff the line of scrimmage. They just get the penetration on the line there. So yeah, I think this is going to be a really tough one. I see the Wolves kind of coming out with this one too.
I do too. Lots going on this weekend. You're covering Musketeers all weekend, tonight and tomorrow night. Very emotional night in the Tyson Event Center. They'll retire Matisse Kivlenix's number tonight, and then cross-check cancer night tomorrow night for the Musketeers. I'm covering Morningside Dort football on Saturday. A lot going on. And we got South Dakota cross country tomorrow, Nebraska cross country going on right now. Want to give a shout out to Harrington's Carson Necker and South Sioux's Masudi Eherso, both state champions in their respective classes on the Nebraska side. We'll certainly have that for you coming up in Saturday's paper as well.
Much congrats to both.
Yes, much congrats to both. So very, very a nice job out of both of those elite runners on the Nebraska side. We've got a handful of runners running on the South Dakota side tomorrow, and then Friday and Saturday next week on the Iowa side.
Yeah, I mean you're going down to Fort Dodge on Friday to cover that. I mean we had some runners yesterday that I went out to cover up in Orange City that punched their ticket through to the next round. I mean it's just an exciting time for cross country. I never went to the state title meet in Washington. I wasn't that fast. But it's just a fun time. This is they've been building it up all year, and the challenge right now is to just peak at the right time.
Yes.
And so yeah, the next week all those players or all those runners just gotta maintain the peak, kind of take care of their bodies, and just get themselves mentally ready.
And then volleyball this week. We got regional semifinals and finals, I think, in all 5 classes this week. I think Nebraska fires up this weekend. I'm sure South Dakota starts up soon too. So we've got a lot going on in all 3 states at the high school level and at the collegiate level too. Not only are there fall sports, the college basketball season is now tipped off. As Briarcliff women are facing Dakota State right now at Newman Flanagan Center.
I mean, if you think back to last spring when COVID was first starting and all the sports got shut down, as sports writers, we really had not a lot to do.
No.
This is the opposite of
Yeah,
that time.
this is the opposite.
Picture that time and then think of the reverse. That's what's happening right now. There's just so much happening just all over the place, and we're going to do our best to keep up and bring you the coverage that you expect from the Sioux City Journal.
Absolutely. Check out SiouxCityJournal.com for all of that coverage, both in print and online. For Assistant Sports Editor Shane Lantz, Visuals Assistant Editor Jesse Brothers, I'm Sports Editor Zach James. Thank you so much for watching. We'll talk to you next week for the regular show, the Coaches Show, and Shane will have you for the live stream next week. Thanks for watching.
Toodles.